Movies, coming at you with my review of The Happening, the 2008 thriller directed by M. Night Shyamalan that is so bad. So bad. I mean, this movie is just awful. For me, it does cross over into that so bad it's funny level. I watched this fairly recently with my wife, and there were so many moments where just before they happened, because I have seen this movie before, I just started laughing so hard because I knew, oh dear Lord, that scene's coming up. Oh man. Like I said before, this movie is directed by M. Night Shyamalan, a director who I used to absolutely love. My buddy Franklin F.M. McGinnis and I recently did it, no, not recently, but a little while back, did a video on his career and how he had so many great movies and then unfortunately fell completely apart. And this is definitely one of his worst movies. I wouldn't go so far as to say it is quite the worst, but it's definitely up there. I mean, it's very, very much in contention. Just horrendously made, and just the concept, I'll give him, was kind of cool. I thought the execution was horrendous. The reveal was really, really bad, but even if they had handled it better, I thought could have potentially worked, but in this film didn't at all. For those of you who aren't aware of what this movie is about, I'm going to give spoilers on it. If you haven't seen it yet, I would personally say I would not worry about the spoilers, because one, if you know what is going to happen in this movie and you watch it anyways, you're a sucker for punishment, or you're looking to see a movie that's so bad it's good, in which case the story isn't going to have much of an effect on you, like knowing what was going to happen, or B, I can't remember if I said A or B at first. Probably one, I guess. One, B, two, or B. You're never gonna watch it. So this movie is about, all of a sudden this happening takes place where people start killing themselves out of nowhere, and people come to the conclusion that either A, it could be a terrorist attack, and before too long though they figure out that it is actually the trees and the vegetation on the planet have decided to fight back against the virus of humanity and force us to do this to ourselves by basically releasing a pheromone or a chemical or whatever that makes us kill ourselves. And again, I think it inherently that could be goofy, but I also think it could have very easily worked, because I think it is a smart idea. I could definitely see the concept of humanity being such a pox on the planet that the planet has to fight back. But unfortunately, every decision almost that was made after that was horrendous, starting with the decision to cast Mark Wahlberg as a science teacher that is at the heart of this film in, I think, every single moment, minus one where where Zoe Deschanel's character is sitting by herself in a room, and then he comes and enters. Or actually, there's another moment where she's in a shed by herself. But in almost every moment of this film, Mark Wahlberg can be seen, and he does such a bad job in this movie. It's amazing, because I have seen him give some truly amazing performances. I mean, I think he's fantastic in Boogie Nights, but man is he bad in this. Almost every line is delivered poorly. There are a few exceptions, but I mean, when he's being a teacher at the beginning of the movie, it's really goofy and unbelievable and just awful. And then went through the rest of the film where he's being a hero, when he has these expressions on his face when he's reacting to a situation where he's just like, it's so over the top and ridiculous. And when he's talking to people, there's an unbelievable amount of close-ups on his face in this film, and almost every time he gets a close-up, he's hamming it up like nobody's business. I mean, he's just awful. The way I mean, I could keep going on, but basically everything he does almost in this movie is just unbelievable and bad. He was casted poorly. His lines admittedly were written poorly. I don't know what happened on that film set, if he just decided to completely give up, because it definitely feels that way, because he is bad in this movie. And I already touched on the fact that Zoe Deschanel's in this movie, and again, she's an actress that I have found very likable in a number of things. I liked her in Yes Man and New Girl and The Good Girl, and she's very, very, and Alf, of course. She's very, very likable on film. Not so much here. here she's annoying and terrible, and again she has a lot of over-the-top expressions and reacts to things in very unbelievable ways, and all of a sudden will just blurt out a piece of expository information, or just just her character's decisions are bad, but the way she performs those decisions is also bad. I mean, there's just everything that she does almost is terrible, and you're catching on to a bit of a theme. And John Leguizamo's in this movie, an actor who, again, I've enjoyed in certain films. I mean, he's been bad in a lot of movies too. I mean, The Pest, oh dear lord, but terrible in this movie, but miraculously gives one of the better performances. That he's almost believable as a concerned parent and husband, but not good enough to save any of the scenes he's in. And he's a math professor, and when he's given all these moments where he's in great peril, his reaction is to start asking people math riddles. And who would do that? I understand the idea that he's doing it to try to calm them down, but no. Why? First off, if he was calm enough to think clearly in order to do that, he would probably be smarter to be trying to deal with the situations he's in, instead of basically making it so people aren't paying attention, and that's just stupid. And the questions are annoying, and oh man, this movie, dear lord. I'm surprised I'm not speaking more passionately, because I guess the main reason is because at the end of the day it's so terrible it's funny, but it's not, to talk about it's not hilarious. So let's just keep going with this thing. And then there are two characters that are added to this movie that are out of nowhere and do such incredibly crazy things. There's an old lady that they basically meet up with at the end of the film, and she is blunt and rude, and that's fine. At first you're just like, oh, okay, well, and I mean it's entertaining because Mark Wahlberg's reactions when she speaks are just amazing. But then she goes from blunt and rude to just out and out crazy, and it's like a light switch. And don't get me wrong, I understand that is what happens in real life, but it's so hard to take it seriously by that point in the film, especially with Mark Wahlberg hamming it up. And I mean, he's in a room and he's talking to a tree, and he's telling it that he's its friend, and then realizes it's plastic. I mean, that's the type of moments that you've been watching in the build up to this. And so when she's on screen and she starts doing these just nuts things, it's just so hard not to laugh. Because I will say this, I thought the actress who played the old lady did a pretty good job. I mean, not Oscar worthy or anything like that, but she did okay. I think she gave the performance of the film. But it's unfortunate because everything around her is so bad that you can't go with it. But she pales in comparison to this random stranger that they come across as the movie progresses. That he takes them back to his house, and he's getting some provisions so that they can go along with the story. And then all of a sudden, out of absolutely nowhere, he turns to the main characters of the film, and again, this is told in a close-up on just him, so you can't see the actors you've been in this film with up until this point, and he's just basically like, "You like hot dogs, don't you?" And then he begins to rant about why hot dogs are basically nature's perfect food, and that is his defining characteristic. Yeah, he seems to know a lot about plants, and he gives some expository information as well, but really he's there to talk about hot dogs. If there's a scene where he's in it and he's not talking about hot dogs, that character isn't paid, because he wants to be talking about hot dogs. He loves hot dogs that much. Who would write that? Why is that in this film? It's not like it's not like he's talking about hot dogs and he's making these super valid points where, as a viewer, I'm watching and be like, man, he's really making me rethink my position on hot dogs. Nope. He's just talking about hot dogs a lot. That's what he does. He talks about hot dogs. He should be credited as the hot dog guy, because it's really what he does. I mean, yeah, he drives a car, he serves a purpose in the story, but when other than that, all he's there to do is talk about hot dogs. Do you want to watch this movie now to find out about the hot dog guy? Because I gotta tell you, even talking about the guy, I kind of want to go watch those scenes again, because it's freaking hilarious. Who would write that? Why is that in this movie? And the part that drives me nuts about this movie, I mean, again, I think you could probably tell that I have fun with this movie because it's that bad. But there's a scene that is amazing. in my personal opinion. I remember watching the trailer for this movie and being like, man, I want to see that. And it's because they right front and center is this scene. It's right near the beginning of this movie. And this movie was meant to be frightening. Like, this movie, I was supposed to be on the edge of my seats when I'm watching it. Not at all, laughing hysterically, but that's what I was supposed to be doing. And this scene, if the rest of the movie had been able to capitalize on the tone of this moment, I would have been. This movie would have been a total success. This movie could have even been like an all-time classic in my view. There's this scene early on, like I said before, there's movies, basically this chemical comes and hits people and they kill themselves, right? So there's this scene, there's multiple moments in this movie where all of a sudden they'll have like, and when I was talking earlier about Mark Wahlberg being in almost every moment, I was kind of talking out of my ass because there are definitely cutaways, but he's in a lot. Anyways, there's multiple moments where all of a sudden they'll cut to a park or a business or this or that, and they'll show the happening is arriving there, and they'll show you what is happening to the people there. And there's one moment that is just amazing. You go up and you go into this moment and you're like hanging out with a bunch of construction workers, and they're, you know, just talking and shooting and laughing it up and telling hilarious stories. Then all of a sudden a construction worker falls from the top of this building that they're working on to his death, and everybody reacts to it like, oh my god, Billy or whatever the character's name was just fell, and he's in a lot of trouble, and they all are reacting to it like this horrible thing just happened, which, you know, that's what a character would do in that situation, right? And they're going over to him and they're checking on him and they're like, oh, go get the medics and we gotta deal with this right away. And then as there's a shot of them looking over his body, and you see another body fall from up top behind them, and they turn around and they have this just horrified look on their face, and they're like, what is happening? And then all of a sudden you start hearing more and more bodies drop, and there's a shot of the vantage of one of the construction workers who you see looking up, and you just see people and falling, and they're not like, you know, they're not pausing at the edge of the building or anything like that. They're just walking off like they're you know, going for a walk in a park and falling to their deaths. And it is such an awesome scene. It's freaky as that, and completely gets to me. And it's in this awful movie. I would love it if some other filmmaker saw this movie and was like, that was really cool, I'm gonna steal it and put it in my movie. And I wouldn't even hold it against them, the fact that they completely ripped it off, because I wish this was in a much better film. So those are my thoughts on The Happening. I think I've made my feelings pretty clear. Let me know in the comment section below what you think. If this other than that, please hit the like button, hit the share button. It makes it much more likely that other people will come check out this video, which is something I'd absolutely love, because I love talking to people about movies. And if you're new here, you just haven't done it yet, please hit subscribe, hit that notification bell. It'll let you know when I put out a new video that you can come check out. Other than that, have yourself a good day. The Happening sucks.